Hello, friends. It's time. It's time that I finally make sense of the things that I see, more than I have been previously. If you've been following me, then you'll know that for the past few weeks, I've been reacting to and watching 3 League of Legends videos each week, and it has been very enjoyable. But to be honest, I don't have the complete picture. I have all of these little fragments, and I have a desire to have them all interconnect in my mind. I am definitely one of the people that got into this world and this story as a result of Arcane, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's such a wonderful world, and today is the day that it starts to make some sense for me. So, for this week, I am reacting to Necrit, and I'm watching his Story of League of Legends Explained video. I was looking around debating which video I should pick first, and this lovely little silly comment here made me feel like I was in the right place. I know he's been recommended to me a ton since I've started this channel, so I think it's about time that I finally get to it. Also, this might be a little bit nerdy, but I have my notebook and my pencil here next to me to take notes because I'm bad with names, as we're all aware. But other than that, here we go. Hello. So after going through my footage, for the first 3 minutes of the video, he's just introducing what he's gonna be doing, and I didn't really say much because, well, he wasn't talking about the story, so I didn't have much to say. So I'm just gonna skip to the part where he talks about the story, because that's what you're here to see. Also, I'll insert some of the highlights of the things I did say, but it's not much. So here they are. Enjoy. Does he have a cat? Hey! Shout out to this guy. I know he likes Ionia a lot.
The way I did it was simple. I read a lot.
Hey, amen. I can appreciate that. Thank you for putting this together.
Or journal logs in
Hey!
other games. League is also...
Oh, that's the spooky guy. Wait, this is so cute. This is their character model from the video game. I haven't seen them before. There's just something so cute about seeing the super spooky, scary Nocturne guy in little Ghostbusters form. Okay, that is all. On with the video.
Finally, without further ado, let's get into the main storyline of
Yes!
League of Legends.
Yes!
Let's start at the very beginning.
Good.
In the ages before time was even a concept.
Okay, so before time. So time wasn't a thing. We're talking like, wow, so this world has its own version of the Big Bang. Are we gonna do some celestial looking things like Marvel? What are we gonna do?
There was nothing. Or at least that's what the things inside the nothing thought. You see...
The things inside of nothing. Alright, you already have me lost.
Since the beginning of time, there were always the Watchers. They are these
Watchers.
nightmarish shapeless creatures that drifted in the absolute darkness of the universe.
Ooh, okay. So let me take some notes. The Watchers existed before time, and they were in the dark.
They are these nightmarish shapeless creatures that drifted in the absolute darkness of the universe. The thing is that the universe was so dark and empty, the Watchers themselves didn't even know they existed.
They didn't even know they existed? What the fuck? We're dealing with some real existentialism shit here, man. Like, holy hell. Okay. These are concepts that are force you to push the human mind beyond what we're fully capable of understanding, but you kind of just have to be like, okay, yeah, I don't really know what that means, but I can get like a general guess at what that even means.
There was nothing to see and nothing to feel. There was nothing to show them that they actually lived. But that all changed when a tiny spark of light appeared in the empty cosmos.
Ooh.
Suddenly, the Watchers realized they could see. Not only...
Ooh. So maybe they weren't even originally called the Watchers at first, and they got their name because of something? So let me write notes to spark of light appeared. To be honest, I really did not expect us to go this far back in time. I was expecting like to start off with some battle or some war, not the beginning of the universe itself.
That, they realized that they are conscious beings with senses. Just like that, the spark of light woke up the Watchers from their eternal sleep. Naturally, the Watchers were quite annoyed at the tiny spark.
Naturally? Why would they be naturally annoyed? See, in my mind, if you gained sentience, awakened from your eternal sleep because of this little light, wouldn't you almost praise the light? Oh, this is cool. Maybe the light can represent like either nihilism or like religion. Because I think if it brings you to consciousness, the Watchers or whatever they were, like, this gave me enlightenment. I am now conscious and a free-willed being. Let's go to the light and praise it. But naturally annoyed. I don't know if that's a thing, naturally annoyed. I mean, unless you're like, ooh, my bad. I completely missed main point. If they like the darkness, yeah, then naturally they would be annoyed because the light do the whole vampire thing where they're like, ah! So, light, bad, because they like the dark.
Up until now, everything was peaceful and quiet. But this spark was blinding them, and it was ruining their slumber.
Oh
When
no.
they drifted closer to inspect the light, the Watchers found out that the tiny spark was in fact a window into reality.
A window?
Inside the reality.
Hold up. Okay, I like good storytelling, but a window into reality? Okay, so spark of light equals window to reality. I'm not kidding, I'm taking notes. Oh my god, another cute character model. I can't even recognize who it is, I'm sorry.
Dragons of twilight, cosmic beings, and even death itself came to be, and they roamed around the empty space. Some, like Aurelion Sol,
Did I miss
spread
something?
light.
Is it just because they looked through the
The
window?
Watchers found out that the tiny spark was in fact a window into reality. Inside the reality, dragons of twilight, cosmic beings, and even death itself came to be, and they roamed around the empty space. Some, like
Well, see, like, I agree. I don't think there should be concrete things for some of these. I don't even know if necessarily... I'll be able to tell by the end of the video. So apologies for my ignorance. But maybe you don't need to have all of this lore in the very, very beginning. It seems like Runeterra is so well built that it could stand on its own with just having the universe be born in a more understandable way. But honestly, it's okay. Leave some things ambiguous. That I appreciate that.
Sol spread light around. They left little pieces of themselves behind, which created stars. And
they left little pieces of themselves behind to create stars. So they're like made of sun matter? I'm really not trying to nitpick or anything. I'm just trying to understand. If this little cute model guy leaves pieces of himself behind, does he like vomit up a cat ball of sun and just there it is? There's a star creating nuclear fusion. Just I get it. It's supposed to be like a fantasy thing. I'll stop. My brain just tries. I constantly exist in existential dread and fear, so I love stories about the universe, but I keep forgetting. It's fantasy.
with a little help from cosmic dust, planets formed around these stars.
Cute.
The absolute majority of these newborn worlds were empty, but sometimes there was life. The one planet that we know about is Runeterra.
Okay, so it looks very similar to Earth. It's interesting that if you have a lot of these, not a lot of these, my bad. If you have beings that are capable of, I don't even know how to explain, intergalactical travel and pooping out stars, maybe they would know if there's other life, but this is the one we know of, and that's okay.
Now, Runeterra wasn't shaped by accident. The Celestials created this world with the use of the world rune.
Oh, there are like Celestials, kinda, like the Eternals. So let's see these Celestials.
Runeterra wasn't shaped by accident. The Celestials created this world with the use of the world runes. Hence the
Oh, hey, that's what Rise had. That looks almost like the exact one in his vision. Or maybe not his vision, the real life thing where that town, that city got annihilated by those red waves that look identical to that thing there.
Runeterra. It is theorized that the Celestials put them there to terraform the planet.
Theorized,
The only thing that we get confirmed is that according to his legend, Orn did actually shape the mountains of Freljord. However, after a mysterious disaster, the world runes that created this world were lost and scattered across the same planet. This is like
Infinity Stones? I'm just kidding. Step 7. World ruins go missing? Question mark? And not only missing, but they get scattered around the planet. So, gotta collect them all. Do. And Rise is actually trying to do that, it seems like. Apologies if I'm wrong about that. I only watched one cinematic where he was doing that, so.
The reason why Runeterra is a magical world full of spirits. It is likely because the world runes slowly radiated magic into the surrounding lands.
Interesting. Okay, so the world ruins, most likely, I'm keeping all this with a grain of salt, because like he said, new information could come out. And then also, it's just theorized, but he kind of seems like from scrolling through his channel, he does this a lot. So if I'm gonna take an opinion from someone, it probably won't be him. It's not even just an opinion, it sounds like a well-formed, educated guess. So, the world ruins, sorry, literally taking notes, world ruins, radiated out magic. That is a very interesting. Oh my god, wow. I'm not even very far in. And this already has me very intrigued in relation to the Arcane TV show. I know I don't want to connect them too much because they're not really the same thing or one to one, but if what I'm hearing here is somewhat what is carried over into Arcane, that has interesting implications for. I'm thinking specifically of Victor at the moment in terms of how he's harnessing magic. And then the fact that these runes were used by celestial beings. A little interested in knowing what made them. Did the celestials make these world runes? Are they just used for every world? Not that it matters too much, but just like a small detail that I'm intrigued to know.
Millennia passed and life started blooming on Runeterra.
Hey, here's the map. Okay, let me draw a little picture of the map. Okay, we got Chunky Land, Freljord, Demacia, Noxus. With the book, Piltover, Zon. Oh, they connect that way. That's cool. Targon, Shurima, Bilgewater. Ionia's got its own nice big chunk of land up there. It doesn't really have to deal with anyone. Maybe. And Shadow Isles is quite small, but it's quite isolated and dark looking. Alright, got a few pieces of unclaimed land over there, but who knows? So far, the place I would most likely want to live in would probably be Ionia. I really like the aesthetic of Bilgewater. However, I get really motion sick, so being on a boat a lot, not looking good for me. Alright, let's go.
First, it was Yordles, Animus, and the Vastaya Shirei who.
Oh, what? I'm
life...
sorry. He said hold up. I got this.
First, it was Yordles, Animus, and the Vastaya Shirei who.
Hold up. I'll try with captions. I don't even know if I don't have faith in the auto-generated to try to get that, but we'll see.
First, it was Yordles, Animus, and the Vastaya Shirei.
Maybe it's Yordles and animals in the Iris Fishray? Fuck, I'm so sorry. I'll try to do it in editing. Hey, Lies. Hey, Lies. Okay, so you're telling me this is a real word?
Kind of.
How say?
Vastaya. Oh, fuck, I can't say it again.
The Vastaya Shirei tended your sapling, Grandfather.
Vastaya Shirei.
Oh. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But humans later joined them when they started covering the surface. This was very.
Okay, so we have note taking, Yordles, and then word I don't know on ocean floor, and then humans later joined. Okay.
This was very important to the Celestials. As mortals began emerging, the Celestials started fiddling with their lives.
That has some moral implications, just a few. That's not I get it. You're a big celestial person. Yes, good. But you fiddle with the people? Nah,
Celestials. As mortals began emerging, the Celestials started fiddling with their lives. In fact,
fiddling with their lives. Okay, hold up. Let me write that down. More mortals, and then celestials fiddled. I don't like that word. With their lives. Alright, he's gonna give us an example. Let's see what kind of example we're working with.
In fact, according to the Celestials, they had some kind of grand design for the mortals. The story specifically avoids telling us what the design was, but at least we know that living beings had a purpose.
Interesting. At least we know that living beings had a purpose. Hello, this is Editor Silly. I'm dropping in a quick too long didn't read if you don't feel like listening to the next minute and a half. But basically, I explore the implications of what it could mean to have a purpose already built in for life. If you don't feel like listening to me develop my thoughts as I go, feel free to skip to here. Otherwise, enjoy my ramblings. Let me know if they make any sense to you. That really puts a lot of interesting implications in reflection to our own world of how people and these living mortals would operate and how their morals would revolve around certain ideas, because we, as a collective, as an average person, can't. I know some people would disagree with this, but I can't confirm that we have a purpose. Like, we were created with a specific purpose, and I think for a lot of people, they find their own purpose, or some people believe that the purpose is what they create for themselves, and that is their purpose, to find it within themselves. So the idea that maybe one day I found out that there was a celestial being that created me for a specific purpose, and that was why I was made, as I think there are many ways someone finding out that information could go about developing from that. I can see it being a very negative thing, and you know, especially if you've already developed your own sense of understanding of what it means to live and die and all of that, versus being a positive thing for people that might not have their sense of purpose. I don't know. Morally, these celestials, which I don't know the names of, they're doing some things that are choices, you know? Also, this guy on the left, what the frick? Is like cute little chickens around him. Adorable.
Voice telling us what the design was. But at least we know that living beings had a purpose. The evolution of life wasn't an accident. To strengthen the relationship between the Celestials and the mortals of Runeterra, the Celestials did two things.
Okay.
First, they created star constellations.
They created star constellations. Alright. So Celestials created star constellations. Now, I'm guessing there's more to that than just the fact that they created it, because you can look up and be like, oh, that's pretty, but maybe they have messages in them? Let's see.
These were images that served as messages to guide mortals to their intended purpose.
To their intended purpose? Fuck, this has me going through loops now. Their intended purpose. I'll let him continue on, but that's not sitting well with me. I'm trying to figure out why it's not sitting well with me. Astrology would be cool.
It was an easy way to communicate with them. And second, the Celestials created Mount Targon. An interesting fact is that the mountain was literally ripped from the ground. It is as if someone pinched the earth and pulled it up. That's...
Oh, okay. So let me write that down. Mount Targon, created by Celestials. This mountain was already interesting enough, and now that there's a universal celestial being attached to it, in terms of like its creation, makes it more interesting.
The mountain was literally ripped from the ground. It is as if someone pinched the earth and pulled it up. That's why it is much steeper than any other mountain. Also, you may notice that a lot of the mountain surface is covered in ice. Partially, it is because it is really cold up there. But it's also because as the mountain was being pulled up, it was also dragging lakes and rivers with it.
Oh, wow. What a great visual to put with it as he talks. I really appreciate so far the visuals matching what he's saying. It's really helping me understand the story. I'm not trying to throw shade, but sometimes when I'm watching videos and the visuals not only don't match, but straight up contradict what you're trying to show, it can be quite hard to follow. And here, I can tell there's a fucking frozen, pond/lake on the side of the mountain. That makes me question how big the Celestials are. That gives me the impression that they're very large, if they just kind of quote-unquote pinched. I don't know if that was metaphorical or literal, but that's very large, if that is true.
So a lot of the ice is vertically frozen lakes stuck to the mountain. In the end, Mount Targon was a pretty successful invention. It served as a beacon of godly light and magic that
served as a beacon, okay, for godly light and magic.
Attracted beings from all over the world. The more advanced mortals even formed their own civilization around its peak, which gave them a deeper connection with the celestial realm. And after some time, few of the most trusted individuals were elevated by the Celestials.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little lost on this part. I'm guessing it's in relation to how the magic radiates out and makes people more magical. I'm not sure why just being near it would be a good thing. Let me rewatch it.
The more advanced mortals even formed their own civilization around its peak, which gave them a deeper connection with the celestial realm. That leads me to believe that they, understood it more, or that it, radiated out or something of that matter. Or maybe he didn't mean it literally, and he just meant the nature of this civilization was heavily focused on trying to understand their purpose, and the Celestials and
if they even know of the Celestials, I'm not sure, but that was more about what their culture was built around rather than from being around the mountain they got imbued with like knowledge or something like that.
And after some time, few of the most trusted individuals were elevated by the Celestials.
Or elevated by the Celestials. Fucking, it reminds me of Indiana Jones shit. You know, you don't want all that knowledge sometimes.
Specifically by the celestial aspects, creating the very first ascended beings. But the
Ooh.
Celestials weren't the only ones who were strengthening their control over the life.
Are any of these ascended beings champions? Like this little guy here, by chance? If so, let me know. If not, sorry for the silly question.
But the Celestials weren't the only ones who were strengthening their control over the life on Runeterra. The
Okay.
Watchers were doing the
Ooh.
same. They were carefully poking holes into
This eyeball is chaotic as fuck. Does anybody know where this eyeball's from? Because it almost reminds me of Mario on the DS.
reality, gathering any information about what the reality is, and more specifically, how can they get rid of it. The
How
Celestials
can they get rid of it? Oh, I guess that's right. They don't like the light, and all of reality, all of it is stored within the light, so they kind of want to get rid of the light, which would mean getting rid of the reality. Damn. Wait a second, did he say carefully poking holes in reality? What does that imply? What exactly does that mean?
The Watchers were doing the same. They were carefully poking holes into reality, gathering any information about what the reality is, and more
Okay.
specifically, how can they get rid of it. The Celestials noticed these holes in realities that we know as void rifts, and they
Oh, that's cool. As I'm going throughout this video, the random videos I've watched of League, there's little pieces of, and void rifts are from poked holes from the Watchers.
quickly moved to the next stage of controlling Runeterra. Now it was about this time when Aurelion Sol flew by and he noticed how much the life on Runeterra bloomed. And when he got closer, he noticed that all the tiny
I'm sorry. Every time it go like, look at it. It went from that to that. That? Yeah, I could see that. Oh, oh, look, he kind of looks like he has like the power to create a star in his hand. That answers my question. Neat. He's fucking huge. Look at the tiny people. Okay, this makes more sense now. All right, so to be clear, Celestials, oh, we're taking notes. Celestials noticed void rips and quickly moved to stage 2.
And when he got closer, he noticed that all the tiny mortals looked up at him, and they worshipped him. Now
Oh.
this Aurelion didn't mind at all, and he
Interesting. So I'm guessing, perspective-wise, people know they exist. The Celestials?
often came back to visit Runeterra between his journeys into the dark. At one point, the mortal community up on the mountain, who were now known as the Targonians, offered Aurelion Sol a crown. Aurelion of course appreciated the gesture of gratitude, and he happily put it on.
Okay. So people on the mountain are known as Targonians. Got it?
But as he did that, he
Cute.
willingly chained himself to the planet. Because
Oh no! Silly humans and the big dragon spaceman thing? Why?
the crown bound Aurelion to the will of the ascended Targonians. Aurelion Sol was now enslaved. We don't
Oh,
really know if
no.
it was just the Targonians who did this on their own, or if it was a plan of the celestial beings to enslave Aurelion Sol. But either way, the reason why Aurelion Sol was enslaved was because he was powerful enough to seal the void rifts. He was
Oh. That's gotta be a magical crown of some sort. Like, I get his theory about it being part of the plan from the Celestials, because that, Aurelion Sol, right? That seems like a being that would take a tremendous amount of power to enslave to a planet. Not that the mortals couldn't do it, because it seems like they were evolving and expanding fast and stuff, but that does seem like a potential from a celestial to do that. Aurelion Sol was able to seal the rifts from the Watchers. Got it. Roger that. On to the next.
was an effective weapon against the grand enemy. Aurelion had a
I wouldn't know if I'd call him a weapon. More of like a defensive thing, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
massive ego and he couldn't care less about the lives of mortals. So that's why he had to be forced to properly help the reality.
Oh.
At this
He couldn't care less about the mortals? I don't know, because he said earlier that he stopped by a lot because of the relishing. He was like intrigued by it. If you couldn't care less, then you literally would just keep flying by as if you didn't give a fuck. I guess he doesn't care in the regard of doesn't care if they live or die, but he cares in some sense, and that doesn't mean couldn't care less, because couldn't care less means it's rock bottom, dead bottom.
Point, the Watchers were at their limits. They wanted
Oh.
to learn more about Runeterra, but they were massive, and the rifts were tiny.
Why would the Watchers just care about Runeterra, right? Because if they wanted to get rid of all of reality, the light, right? That's all of it, everything. That sorry again, I'm not trying to like nitpick or anything. I'm sincerely just trying to understand because the light holds all of that, and Runeterra is just one tiny planet in the infinite of space, right? Just like us. As far as we know, very similar in that regard. Wouldn't they be trying to rip holes in tons of planets?
So that's why he had to be forced to properly help the reality. At this point, the Watchers were at their limits.
That's why he had to be forced to properly help the reality. But reality is more than Runeterra, so slightly confused.
They wanted to learn more about Runeterra, but they were massive, and the rifts were tiny. The Watchers simply couldn't fit through. But it didn't take them too long to figure out that all they needed to do was to reach a mortal being and control it. If they corrupted something and sent it out, they could use it as a spy. So the way the Watchers gathered more information more effectively was by sending out horribly morphed beings to devour other beings and gather their information. The reason why information is so important to the Watchers is because they could easily use it as a weapon against Runeterra.
Okay. Yeah, information is power. I do agree with that. So the next step of this story would be the Watchers, took over, I guess you could say, beings to gain info.
The more they learn about how living beings are constructed and what living beings are the strongest, the more powerful voidborn creatures they can create and
What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? What is it? What am I looking at? Let me listen to that again.
the more they learn about how living beings are constructed and what living
So that's interesting. The more they learn about how living beings are constructed, it's just an interesting concept. In general, in storytelling, to have a thing, right? The Watchers have a want, a desire, right? A need to learn, or in this case, it's to learn and to know about the mortals. But he said here the living beings. Wouldn't that kind of imply that the Watchers are kind of a living being in a way? Because they have a conscious, a want of their own. It's very existential, but it's like a very tricky idea to wrap my head around, I think, for anybody. But I'll just take it with a grain of salt because it's a story, and I'm being too much. Okay, I'm being too much. I know. I'm sorry.
living beings are the strongest, the more powerful voidborn creatures they can create and release through the rifts. But the
Ooh.
Watchers realize that deconstructing and recreating beings is not the only way to win this war. Up in Freljord, they were playing a different game. They managed to slowly corrupt the mind of an individual that almost doomed the entire planet. Of course, we're talking about Lissandra.
Of course, yes, of course. Lissandra. Alright, Lissandra, what'd you do?
Lissandra was one of the three sisters that ruled Freljord, the second most powerful region at that time, right after Targon. The
Okay.
three sisters were Lissandra, Sorilda, and Avarosa.
Okay. So, one of three powerful sisters. And Freljord in general was just strong. So, I guess gaining control of her would be a big up. And then you could get control of other places, I guess.
And all of them were drawn to celestial magic. Sorilda wanted
Oh.
to command the celestial heaven.
Who is that? Sorildra. I actually don't see her on my champion list. Maybe I'm just missing it.
But for her arrogance, she lost her voice to the first Twilight. Avarosa witnessed the twisting dark
Avarosa. I also don't see her anywhere. Interesting. I'm guessing that's why he has them in blackout, because they're not, like, we don't really know.
the twisting dark overlooking the world, and she was deafened by its complete emptiness. And Lissandra disrespected the wild magic of Runeterra, and as her punishment she was blinded by Volibear. Together, one blind, one deaf, and one mute,
First off, Volibear, that's not very nice. What did she do again?
and Lissandra disrespected the wild magic of Runeterra, and as her punishment she was blinded by Volibear.
What did you do to disrespect it? That's so harsh. I guess Lissandra probably did something bad. Pretty bad.
Together, one blind, one deaf, and one mute, the
Hey, I don't know if you guys have seen that challenge going around on the internet, but people try to bake
3 sisters ruled Freljord. Since she was blind, Lissandra had to rely on her hearing and delving into dreams. This meant that over
Delving into dreams? Hey, Editor Silly here. A lot of this stuff was really abstract. The losing your voice and the being deafened by all of the nothingness. So if you know a good place to read the story, or you literally just want to tell me what the story is in a condensed form, slap it in my comments. I will read it. Thank you.
time, her hearing was so good she could hear what others could not. Voices that echoed through the fabric of reality.
Holy fuck. Alright, that was a leap, but I'll take it. I get it also. He's doing a great job of compacting it to be a 20-minute video. It would probably be a lot longer if these sentences were detailed, like in between, of like, oh, what did Lissandra do to disrespect? It's serving its purpose and it's doing a good job at that. It's just a fucking massive leap between each sentence.
Unfortunately, what she didn't know is that it was the Watchers who slowly corrupted her.
Oh.
Years passed and Lissandra now fully trusted the Watchers. But she didn't dare tell her sisters about them. In secret, Lissandra even struck a deal with the Watchers. The
Oh?
Watchers would give her people near immortality. This power of immortality is what
Near immortality.
created the Iceborn, who are basically Freljordians touched by the power of the Void.
Interesting, okay. Iceborn are Freljordians touched by the Watchers.
By the power of the Void. And in return, all the Watchers wanted was a safe place to rest when they visit their world. To Lissandra, this was an offering she
What? This was a safe place. They want a safe place to rest when they visit their world? Oh, I'm guessing he means their world as in, not the Watcher's world, the Runeterra, their world, like Lissandra's world.
couldn't decline. And so she accepted the terms on her sister's behalf. More years later, when the Freljord was ready for the Watchers, without a warning, they started emerging from the abyss,
That's terrifying.
revealing Lissandra's hidden allegiance. Unfortunately, their horrible twisted forms were not what Lissandra expected, and she realized the grave mistake she had made.
She realized it just based off of their horrible twisted forms. That's maybe there's more to that. Again, he's probably just condensing it, but you like open up a portal to this thing or whatever the fuck. I don't know. They come in, you're expecting them to come in a little bit early. They're early guests. They like to arrive early on time. I'm sure they probably brought some food. They're probably those kind of guests, right? The Watchers come in, then wait, isn't she blind? Hold up.
Abyss, revealing Lissandra's hidden allegiance. Unfortunately, their horrible twisted forms were not what Lissandra expected, and she realized the grave mistake she had made.
You're blind. How can you tell? Did you like feel them and go? Did they let you touch them? I guess maybe other people told her. Is my guess. Like, what the fuck are those? They look like this. But then again, why judge by appearance, man? Hello, Editor Silly. Is it possible that the Watchers are just really, really lonely? You know, being out in the black abyss of nothingness forever and all. Just a suggestion. Could they just want some company?
She invited the end itself to their world. At this point, Lissandra had 2 options. Let the world be consumed, or sacrifice everything she had ever had. And so, using her Iceborn powers, Lissandra managed to freeze everything and everyone who was...
Was that the eye that I thought I saw Rise go up against? Nah, was it? No way.
And so, using her Iceborn powers, Lissandra managed to freeze everything
It
and
was
everyone
behind
who was
ice.
present, killing Sarilda and Avarosa in the process.
Oh no.
This is how a couple of Watchers got frozen in the Holding Abyss, while the
Oh.
rest escaped. After this defeat, the Watchers retreated, but not without new information.
They were in a lot of light, so they're trying to get rid of the light by going into the light, even though they don't like light, and consuming it from the inside out. That's my best summary so far.
Many decades later, on the other side of the world, the war against the Void took another turn. Even though Targon had Aurelion Sol under their control, and they dealt with...
Hold up, before moving on, are there still Watchers frozen in ice around the world? Because if so, I feel like that should take #1 priority. If that thing just melts for whatever reason, or someone decides to go and let it out, it'll just consume everything. Like, not even just your planet, but like the entirety of existence, of reality, of realm, whatever word is appropriate. Just quick question, that's all.
Many decades later, on the other side of the world,
Oh, I just realized that eyeball's probably from the game. It kind of looks like a game model. Anyway, alright, continue.
The war against the Void took another turn. Even though Targon had Aurelion Sol under their control, and they dealt with all the easily accessible rifts, sometimes they had to deal with smaller tears in reality that couldn't be accessed by a massive celestial dragon. That's why the Celestials had to nudge mortals to start a new empire.
Okay, you lost me, but I'll figure it out. I'll find myself. Some of them were too small for the dragon to fix, so you had to create tinier things to go in and fix them.
Sometimes they had to deal with smaller tears in reality that couldn't be accessed by a massive celestial dragon. That's why the Celestials had to nudge mortals to start a new empire. This time, more to the east. Under the guidance of the Celestials, the new Shuriman Empire began constructing a massive disk in Nerimazeth. Using this disk, they attempted to channel celestial powers into their chosen soldiers. But the experiment failed and the disk was destroyed. Later, they made another attempt at this more to the east. This time they constructed a much bigger sun disk that would create super soldiers capable of fighting back the Void. These soldiers would get many different names.
Do recognize that. That's neat. Now that actually makes sense. Holy shit. Alright, so let me take notes. 2. The sun disk was created to put celestial energy into a chosen soldier that would go into smaller rifts that Soul could not fit into. Hot diggity dog, that sounds a little painful of a process. And also, were the Celestials okay with this? Because, like, are you sucking out their juice? Where's it coming from?
Gold Warriors, Golden Warriors, Sunborn, but we know them as Shurima Ascendant.
Shurima Ascendant, okay.
Here we need to mention 3 very important individuals that play a big role in this war.
Okay.
Azir became the greatest leader of the
we got Azir,
the Empire, and the Grand Leader of the Ascended. He was loved by pretty much everyone, but keep in mind that he was still a human. He became Ascended much later.
Oh, okay. So he was a human and then eventually became an Ascendant. And I actually know what Ascendant means now. And I've heard that term and now it makes more sense. Necrit, thank you. Thank you for putting this brain in somewhat of an order.
Nasus became the wisest of the
Oh, it's Anubis. No, it's not Nasus, it's Anubis. I accidentally just wrote down Anubis. I'm so sorry. Okay, we got Anubis. Like, come on. I'm gonna put up an image here. Tell me their character design doesn't look super similar.
Nasus became the wisest of the Ascended. His knowledge of war tactics would become irreplaceable.
Okay, so he was an Ascendant, and which basically means, right, if I'm right, that he got the powers from a Celestial, from the Sun Disk, and he was wise with war tactics. Rough. A whole life of war. That's all I gotta think about is war.
And the third important character is Sadaka. She became the war...
Sadaka. Ooh, that's a cool name. Sadaka I can't seem to find. Oh no. Crap. Let me know if I'm missing it or if it's not an actual champ.
She became the war commander of the Ascended host. And she was the deadliest of all the Ascended. As the Empire was growing and the number of their god warriors was expanding, other nations became suppressed. And some even feared the unstoppable army of Shurima. One such nation was the Kingdom of Icathia. Their leader, the infamous Mage King, had enough of cowering before their might.
Ooh, why is the Void there? Hold up. So, a lot of other questions, which I'm sure, by the way, all of these questions can be answered in other smaller videos that get into the specifics. I understand, the goal is just to try to give a broad overview. But why would Shurima try to take over? Why would they try to... I thought they were doing it to help protect... from the Void, the rifts and the scary watchers. Why are they getting carried away and suppressing people, man? Come on. Did they know? I guess they didn't know that was entirely their purpose because the Celestials just nudged them that way. Did they know it was for that purpose? Probably not.
So he went to war against Azir. Now the Mage King...
He went to war against Azir because he's the leader. Okay.
...knew his small kingdom of mages would not stand a chance against the Ascended. So he called upon a power greater than what the Sun Disk could offer. He called upon the Void.
Whoa, that's like a little excessive. Oh my god.
During the battle for Icathia,
holy shit. Whoa. I love how on the left we got like the good old fashioned Lord of the Rings elephant with the shit on top. And then on the right we have the fucking void creatures. Holy heck. Oh my god, there's little people in the air. Oh no. Well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. It looks pretty bad.
Massive void rift consumed the kingdom. And
what? That was one packed sentence. That I gotta digest that. Holy shit, it consumed the kingdom?
void. During the battle for Icathia, a massive void rift consumed the kingdom, and after hundreds of years of observing, the Watchers had another chance to silence all reality. Using their previously gathered knowledge, the Watchers corrupted everything they touched, and they created new voidborn abomination the world had never seen.
Oh no.
This was a war on a scale nobody expected. But after many sacrifices, including Setaka, who died while being torn apart by these abominations,
Great. Okay. I'm guessing that's maybe why it's not a champ if I missed it, because it served its story purpose and died.
the Ascended won, but at a great cost. Not only was the rift in Icathia so big that even today it is still not fully sealed, but
Oh, that's what. I'm so glad I did this in a whack order of doing random videos and now this, because I recognize it. You know what it feels similar to me? It feels similar to watching one of those detective movies or crime movies, TV shows, and at the very end when all the pieces start coming together and they start solving it and you start solving it too, and you're like, holy shit, it's all coming together and it feels just euphoric. That's how I feel right now. Feels great, man. I'm sure I'll still have a million questions, but that's okay. So, left hole, so large, still hasn't quote-unquote healed, which is an interesting way to put it.
most of those who survived were permanently marked by the void.
Oh.
Before this battle, the Watchers have never even seen a god warrior before, so they weren't able to fully corrupt anyone. But their mark was enough to leave a tiny whispering voice in everyone's mind.
Oh.
Thankfully, even though their war commander Setaka was dead, Azir and Nasus remained untouched by the void,
Okay,
and
good,
they
good.
kept all the void-touched warriors under control. Of course, it
How, I guess, so literal, like a literal mark on their body if they're a void touched?
didn't stay that way forever. Zerath, Azir's slave, who was also
Oh, I recognize this guy! Okay, what's going on with him? I know he's just fucking, like, magic power in a body.
and they kept all the void-touched warriors under control. Of course, it didn't stay that way forever. Zerath, Azir's slave, who was
Zera. Let me see if I spelled that right. Oh, it starts with a fucking X? No, not even close, man. I started it with a Z.
and they kept all the void-touched warriors under control. Of course, it didn't stay that way forever. Zerath, Azir's slave, who was also his best friend and guide, saw him as a naive emperor. Everyone saw Azir as a kind-hearted leader, but there were still countless slaves dying under his rule. Now, secretly, Azir was planning to free all the slaves on the day of his ascension. It was
Oh no, it's probably gonna end well. Also, that's a really cool creature design on the left. I really like it.
meant to be a big surprise to everyone, including Zerath. But when the day arrived, Zerath became jealous of the power Azir would get.
Oh.
So Zerath pushed Azir from the Ascension sunlight, and he drained all the power of the Sun Disk himself. This led to Azir's death and the destruction of the capital city.
Oh,
but what's
no.
worse, it also left all the
What's worse? Oh no, the void, okay.
void-touched Ascended without a leader to keep them under control. The only one
Oh, all of the void touched had no one to... They had no one to be like, hey, don't do the bad. You've been tickled by the bad, don't do the bad.
who could do something about this was Nasus. He was wise, but more importantly, he was not touched by the void. However,
Okay.
keeping so many corrupted Ascended in line was an impossible task even for him. And eventually, it was so dangerous, Nasus had to go into hiding.
Oh no.
This meant that the Ascended warriors, now without a leader or purpose, and with tingling void whispers in their minds, went absolutely insane.
No.
Instead of being seen as godly beings, the Ascended slowly turned into brutal warlords. They fought each other,
Fuck am I looking at? They fought each other? All of the Ascended that were touched by the Watchers fought each other?
godly beings. The Ascended slowly turned into brutal warlords. They fought each other, sometimes to gain more power, sometimes to settle their differences. Eventually,
That's the way
they
to do
figured
it.
out how to control the whispers in their mind, and they created a brand new kind of magic.
Okay.
Blood magic, which they
Excuse? Right, writing that down. Blood magic. Blood magic has its moral implications, but that's okay. We'll just push that to the side.
used to reshape and improve their bodies. Soon, the Ascended warriors were known as the Darken, and this era would become known as
A Darken. Darken equals to the Ascended warriors that learned to control the whispers and learned new magic, which is the blood magic.
and this era would become known as the Great Darken War.
All the blood magic going on, that must be scary.
During these times, the entire world was in conflict, as the Darken conquered as much land for themselves as they could. While all of this was happening, the Celestials watched it all. Their warriors who were supposed to fight back the Void were now fighting each other, and they were more dangerous to the mortals than the Watchers themselves.
Did he say their warriors? Because I guess that means they would know.
While all of this was happening, the Celestials watched it all. Their warriors who were supposed to fight
Oh, okay, so their warriors, the Sun Disk thing, that was all successful, part of their plan that they nudged them to. But then it went wrong, and now there's all these super powerful, void-touched, blood magic warriors killing each other and conquering land. Yeah, that sounds about right.
fight back the Void were now fighting each other, and they were more dangerous to the mortals than the Watchers themselves. So
It's interesting that they wouldn't call them mortals anymore. They were more dangerous to the mortals, kind of implying that like the Darkened aren't necessarily mortals anymore. Do you know what I mean?
the Celestials had to remove them. The simplest way to do so was to send the aspect of
Insert happy, tiny, pink-haired little girl. I'm sorry, it was so dark, right? And then there's all this sad shit, and the music is spooky, and then a fucking JPEG image of this little girl comes across my screen.
So the Celestials had to remove them. The simplest way to do so was to send the aspect of Twilight to Shurima. There she would teach mortals how to seal the Darken inside their weapons. It
How to put them in your weapons?
took a couple of years, but in the end, the surviving Shurimans together with the Targonian aspect sealed all the remaining Darken. And finally, the world saw peace again. For a while anyway.
Okay, so what's her name?
The simplest way to do so was to send the aspect of Twilight to Shurima.
The aspect of Twilight? What the fuck does that even mean? Is that her name? Put Darken into weapons. After a few years with Shurima and Targon help. There we go.
If we look back at what just happened, this entire Shuriman experiment was a massive loss for the Celestials. They wanted to have an army to fight the Void, but
Yeah.
instead they ended up with the biggest Void Rift they have ever seen. So the
Almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Again, why is it just this planet?
Celestials needed an entirely new plan. But before they could figure something out, mortals took their fate into their own hands. Possibly in the worst way imaginable.
Oh, great.
You see, now that the Darken were gone and the world was left in utter ruins, even the simplest man could become a
But we haven't discussed any of these other places yet. Like, why is Bilgewater necessarily fucked up? You know, they're pretty far away.
king by simply scavenging whatever he could. And that's exactly what came next. The Age of Men. The
Age
first
of
to
Men.
step up was Mordekaiser.
Okay, so basically after all that, after the Great Darken War, it was just the Age of Man, or just whoever was powerful, right? Like, could be whoever was powerful. This is making sense to modern day. We're getting close to modern day, I feel like.
He was a brutal warlord king who easily swept across Valoran and conquered the entire continent.
Great.
Only when the rest of the world united against him was his dark reign ended. Fast forward a couple of years and the world was simply at war again.
Great.
But this
Of
war
course,
was
like the
unlike
sixth
any
time.
other.
Oh.
Remember when the Celestials lost the world runes at the beginning of the story?
Yes, I do.
Well, mortals began uncovering them.
Oh,
Random
no.
mages around the world held stones with the power to create worlds. It was pretty much the
Oh.
equivalent to holding a nuke. This
Oh,
sounds scary,
okay.
but everything was fine as long as people were just threatening to fire the nukes. But
Yeah, this is a neat comparison to today. Yeah.
once the first nuke was fired, the second followed,
Fuck, they were fired? I didn't know that. I don't know.
and then the third, and the fourth. While the Celestials were trying to come up with a new plan, mortals
Dude, Celestials need to get the shit together. You know what I mean? They like unleashed an ant colony and then fucking panicked and they're just, man.
literally set the world on fire.
Oh,
These-
I recognize it.
While the Celestials were trying to come up with a new plan,
So nukes were fired. Does that mean they were kind of destroyed? Or could you just, because Rise was seen having them, right? So could you use it to make big explosion and then use it again? Or is it like a one-time use item? Because I'm guessing it's not a one-time use item, because the Celestials use it, and like, they dropped it on the planet, fuck, I lost it, whatever. And then, I'm being sarcastic and jokey, by the way, like, I'm not trying to minimize the story, but I'm trying to simplify it for my simple brain. And then they're set off by people, like nukes. I'm guessing it could just be set off again.
Mortals literally set the world on fire.
Yep.
This conflict became known as the Rune Wars.
The Rune
Sometimes
Wars.
Celestials managed to calm down some of the conflicts. Usually this was done with the help of the Targonian aspects. Or with the help of Bard. Bard is a Celestial who specifically comes down on Runeterra to take powerful magical items away from mortals, just so they wouldn't use them in another war. The last time we saw Bard was during the battle for Bard Mountain
Bard.
in Ionia,
That's a great name.
where he took away this magical egg. Later Celestials even tried to create more constellations to show people more messages. But at this point, mortal minds were too primitive, and they usually
But at this point, mortal minds are too primitive. Damn. Shots fired.
thought it was signs of doom. But sometimes, even mortals helped. On the Blessed Isles, there was a cult of mages dedicated to collecting the world runes.
That's the
They
guy!
did it to hide them away from other mortals. But even that didn't help.
Oh,
In the
no.
end, during this era, the most powerful nations were wiped out. In the
Aw.
east, only Noxus remained, after they wiped out their neighbors. Yes, this
After they knocked out their neighbors. I was like, okay, cool.
circle you see here is actually a crater. There was supposed to be another nation here.
Oh.
And in the west, Demacia was built as a purely anti-magic nation. We know that there are a
Anti-magic
couple of
nation.
nations between them. For example, the Arbormar Kingdom. But we don't know much else. This is where the modern lore of League of Legends begins. So if we have a look at
Where it begins? Where it fucking begins? Where it fucking begins? Where it begins? What do you mean? Okay, I'm good. So this was just like a history lesson video, which is good. I have my notes here. I think it makes sense. It does make sense to me, for the most part. I'll go over my notes. I'll study up. It's just the past, man. So now we're caught up to modern day, kind of. I mean, there's still so much to go over.
the world right now, the Watchers are constantly looking for a way to invade Runeterra because they are annoyed by its existence.
Okay.
The north is hiding a massive void rift frozen beneath the holding abyss. The south has a massive void rift still open there. Not
Okay,
big enough to fit
gotcha.
a Watcher through, but big enough to spawn a void army. The western and eastern Valoran is at war, the entire Shuriman continent is mostly in ruins, and the
Alright.
Blessed Isles blew up. Only
Sounds fucking great. Like, is Bilgewater good?
Ionia is somewhat decently holding it
Oh,
together,
alright.
but Noxus had to screw them up too.
Oh,
Remember
great.
when I mentioned that the Celestials had mortals as a part of a bigger design?
Yeah.
Again, the Celestials likely created mortal beings to use them all as soldiers in this galactic war. Well,
Why? Why is everything war? Come on, man.
whatever purpose mortals were supposed to have, it is far beyond the Celestial control now.
Yep.
So
Sure.
now, you may be wondering, what happens next? Well, the main story can go a number of ways. We can learn more about the world runes through the vault
Hey.
in Demacia. Or maybe the Watchers will try to get through the rift in the north. Or the Darken will try to make a comeback and the Celestials will have to deal with them again.
Or hear me out. Hear me out. You really want the end of the world? You really want the end of the world? All three at once, baby. Let's fucking go. All three at the same exact motherfucking time. That is conflict.
Riot created a playground where they can do a lot of different things.
They
Just
did.
remember, it really doesn't matter where you begin to read. But no matter what you decide to do,
I love
just
the
have
art.
fun and go for whatever you are
Aw,
interested in.
yeah.
The days of bad lore are gone, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
I do like that piece of advice that he gives at the end of just going with what interests you. That's what I've been doing, and it makes it less intimidating that way, especially when the world is this large, you know, with so much, and there's already been a fan base, you guys mostly, that have been around for so long. And as someone who's a newcomer to that, it can feel quite intimidating to get things wrong or to just, you know, not know stuff in comparison to others. So I appreciate that, Necrit. Thank you. I will pick the ones that interest me. So far, it's been Jin and Fiddlesticks and Annie. The story of Annie was, yeah, very grounded and beautiful. But I'm sure you guys already know him, so go check him out if you don't. I always recommended him. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching this week. I actually kind of understand things now. If you celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. And have a good one, folks. I look forward to reading the comments as always.
Happy Christmas.